Do we feel that this series is just easily Golden State over Oklahoma City? Rusty Simmons covers the Warriors for the San Francisco Chronicle, and he has been around this historic bunch. Is it as simple as that, Rusty? Is Golden State just clearly better than Oklahoma City?
I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think Oklahoma City pushed the Warriors in all three of those regular season games, and I think the Thunder are playing even better right now. I think they finally figured out their rotations where they're staggering Durant and Westbrook's minutes, and the way they closed some of those games in San Antonio with the two big guys, with Cantor and Adams both on the court, that's something that the Warriors have only seen for 5 minutes this year. So I think this will be a different series than we saw during the regular season.
Yeah, you look at Oklahoma City, they have the size and the rebounding. Can that kind of be the difference maker in this particular series? Because the speed of Golden State gets so much attention, but can Oklahoma City make Golden State play a different game? Nobody's been able to do that, it seems like.
Yeah, I think that'll be the narrative of the series. Can Oklahoma City make the Warriors play big because of the Thunder's rebounding, or can the Warriors get out in transition and make the Thunder play small because they're so fast and they get to the three-point line? I think this will be one of those fun series where you see a lot of adjustments from half to half, from game to game. I know Oklahoma City is going into it thinking they can play big. The Warriors are going into it thinking they can play small, and we'll see who have to adjust first.
You look at Kevin Durant. How did Golden State deal with him during the regular season? And does this seem like a better, more determined Kevin Durant in these playoffs than the one we saw throughout the regular season?
I think you're seeing a better, more determined Durant on the defensive side. He's always been spectacular on offense, and that was no different against the Warriors. The Warriors have a ton of those versatile small forward wing players who can guard Durant, and they tried. Iguodala, Harrison Barnes, Sean Livingston, Klay Thompson, Brennan Rush, everybody against Durant during the regular season, and he still averaged 35 a game. So even if you guard him well, if you do everything right, you're still not going to get to the 7-footer's jumper, and if he's making shots, there's really nothing you can do about it except try to keep your head up and go for the next play.
Rusty Simmons covers the Golden State Warriors for the San Francisco Chronicle. They are, of course, coming off this historic season, and they lose Curry for a couple there. But how, with Curry and, of course, Thompson, you got the two great shooters, but I want to know how those guys defensively match up with Westbrook. What do they do to divvy up the time there?
Yeah, it was interesting during the regular season. They started Stephen Curry on Russell Westbrook, and that was kind of a rarity. Usually when the opposing point guard is of that level, of that all-star level, Klay Thompson gets the assignment, and that's what I expect in the playoffs. I think Klay Thompson will guard him and try to bother him with his length, and that allows Stephen Curry to guard Andre Roberson and kind of sit in the corner on defense, and that's okay for him because he handles so much of the offensive load and decision-making and ball handling. He needs to get some rest somewhere. And so I think that's the way they'll go about it. The Warriors were really good against Westbrook during the regular season. I think he shot 35% from the field and about 17% from three. So they were really, really good against him. If they get anything like that during the playoffs, this series might not be as good as I think.
No Bogut, possibly. What would that change for Golden State if he's unable to play?
It changes a lot. Like we talked about, Oklahoma City wants to play big, and the Warriors haven't seen that yet in the playoffs. They do have some depth there. Festus Ezeli is really good, and Anderson Varejao is a guy who's got some playoff experience. And they have a different kind of center in Mo Spates, a guy who can stretch the floor a little bit and has been better defensively lately. So they've got some guys, but nobody's as good as Bogut. Rim protector, communicator, backline of the defense, and also he's a hub on offense. He's one of those guys that they can give it to at the top of the key and let him make passes on all those backdoor cuts. He's really important. And if he can't play, or even if he's limited, I think the Warriors could struggle against the Thunder because they've got those two big guys that we talked about in Adams and Cantor, and then Serge Ibaka, another player who's versatile and a big guy. So the Warriors need Bogut. They need him at full strength.
Yeah, Rusty Simmons with us, covers the Warriors. Is this the better matchup for Golden State? Or, a lot of people were disappointed, NBA fans, that they didn't get the San Antonio Golden State mega matchup at the end of the rainbow there. But is this a better matchup if you're an NBA fan?
I think entertainment value-wise, this will be a great series for the NBA fans. Over the last several years, the regular season games between the Warriors and Thunder have been much-watched TV. Everybody's talking about the February 27th game where Curry pulled up from 37 and won it in overtime. These teams have played spectacular games, and I expect more of that in the playoffs. I know there is a little bit of that feeling of disappointment about what everybody thought was inevitable a little bit, that the Spurs and Warriors all year long would play in the Western Conference Finals. Two teams that combined for 140 wins. That would have been fun in its own right, but I think the entertainment value of this series will be fantastic.
You follow the thing, Rusty, that impresses me from afar. I'm 3,000 miles away, but everybody's watching. Is they won the NBA championship last year, and then followed it up with another historic season. What being around this team is so special and surprising, covering a team like this that was able to better their NBA championship season?
Yeah, well, I think the Warriors nationally, there's a little bit of a sense of Stephen Curry and the Choir Boys, but they're dogged competitors. You see it every day in practice, and I think that's what this season speaks to. Even in their championship year, they felt like people were discounting them because they played some injured teams and didn't have to go through the Clippers or the Spurs. Some people were calling them lucky. And instead of having that championship hangover, these guys partied for a little bit after they won it, and then they got back to work. Stephen Curry went on a international shoot tour and still was working 4 hours a day. He somehow came back better than his first MVP season. These guys wanted more. They chased history. And they know that none of that matters unless they wrap it up with a championship, and they compete like that every night.
Yeah, and, a lot of times the best team, especially clearly the best team, turns into the villain, and it seems that this team is not the villain, that they are being supported throughout the NBA, and people are embracing their greatness.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we maybe saw the best illustration of that in Portland in Game 4 when Stephen Curry returns from his injury. And he's yelling that it's not Damian Lillard time and that he's back, and he's doing this on the opposing court. And a lot of guys who are that animated, who celebrate, he missed 10 3-pointers, and when he made his 11th, he's shimmying down the sideline. And that kind of stuff usually doesn't go over well in the NBA, but I think this team is so likable. They play with such a joy that I think fans get into it a little bit and support them.
Biggest concern if you're a Golden State fan, and look, over here on the East Coast, people are watching. We're staying up late, we're watching. This has been a sight to see all season long. What's the biggest concern if you're rooting for Golden State?
You know what? I think at this point it's health, and that's a little bit of a let out because that's probably true for every team. But Stephen Curry's knee is still not 100%, and there's always the fear with the ankle that's been a historic problem for him and hurt him in the first series. And then when you think about the importance of Bogut and that he's not 100%, Draymond Green's been dealing with an ankle injury. The Warriors looked good in the first 2 rounds, even without Stephen Curry. But if they don't have him at 100% superstar level in this series, I think they're in trouble. I think the Thunder can take advantage of that.
That series is tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. You can listen to every game of the Warriors and the Oklahoma City Thunder, which should be just a great one. We'll see how it all starts off tonight. I think tonight's very important, for Oklahoma City to kind of show, hey, we won a couple games in San Antonio. If they could do that in surprise, that might really change the tone of this series. I'd be shocked if they were able to do it, though.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten to the point where I just always consider every home game a win for the Warriors. That's the way it seemed for the past 2 years. And in the playoffs, they feed off this crowd here. It's absolutely electric. But even if the Warriors win big in this first game, I think the Thunder showed that they lost huge to San Antonio in Game 1 of the semifinals and came back really strong. So no matter what happens tonight, I think both of these teams have shown that they're playing their best ball right now, and this series is going to be a long, good one.
I'll tell you, I might have saw one of the best Warrior games of the year when they were in Philly. They almost lost that game in Philly. That was a great that might have been one of the games they were pushed to the limit the most during the course of this season. So, this team always comes up big in terms of adversity, late second situations. We'll see who's the guy who hits the big shot for this team. It seems like every single night you're waiting to see who it is, and we can't wait to watch that series tonight. And, of course, we thank Rusty Simmons from the San Francisco Chronicle for giving us a little bit more insight on the NBA's best. Thanks so much, Rusty.
Sure thing. I've got the best job in the world for the next month or two here, don't I?